So there's a bunch of different ways to fish with this gear, but the way we recommend that we think you'll have the most success is with one of the small hooks that we ship with on the end, a couple of weights, and a bobber, and then we're going to use live bait. So I went ahead and tied the hook on before I made this video. It's pretty much impossible to see how to tie the knot on the video, but in the pamphlet that arrived with the kit, there's a diagram that shows how to tie the knot. It's pretty easy. So tie the hook onto the end, and then I've got a few weights here. These are the same split weights that arrive with the kit. Just grab them and pinch them onto the line. 2 or 3 is fine. And then I've got one of these red and white bobbers. Now these bobbers, they float. So they clip onto the line. The bobber will float and set the depth that your bait dangles beneath the surface. So there's 2 hooks on these bobbers. The way you attach it to the line, bracing the hook on the bottom against my thumb and pressing the button to expose the hook on one side. I clip it to the line, and then I'm going to press just the button. Now I can see the hook on the other side, and I'm going to clip the line to it again. Now what I have is the bobber is hooked to the line in 2 places so that it stays where I want it, but with a little bit of force I can adjust it up and down the line. So I got the bobber clipped. About 6 inches below I got some weights, and then 6 inches or so below that I've got the hook. Take the net that arrived with your kit, and you're going to want to prowl around the banks of the creek or the lake where you are, or maybe in the grass. See if you can net a cricket or maybe some little minnows, and we're going to use those for bait. You could also stop at the bait shop on the way and pick up some minnows, but it's way more fun to do it yourself. So I'm going to go find some minnows, and I'll be back in a second to talk about how to fish. Alright, so now I'm rigged up like we just talked about. I've got a bobber, some weights, and a little bit of bait on my tiny little hook, and I'm ready to cast. We talked about the drag adjustment earlier. Make sure it's cranked over towards the positive. And then this reel is real simple. There's a button here, and there's a crank. When you turn the crank, line comes in. When you press and release the button, line goes out. So I'm going to do a sidearm cast. The way that works, I'm going to press and hold the button with my thumb, and then I've got the rod pointed straight out from my body, so I'm going to kind of point my shoulder where I want the cast to go, which is over in these rocks over here where I just saw some fish. And then I'm going to bring the tip of the rod forward, and when it passes my body, I'm going to release my thumb, and that lets the line flow out and the lure flow into the water. So it looks about like this. So now I casted it out. I give a quick crank to the reel, and now the trick to fishing this is not messing with it too much. So we got that bobber, which is pretty easy to see. It's red and white. We want to watch that bobber, and if it starts to jiggle or drop beneath the surface, that's a sign that I'm catching a fish, and I'm going to want to set the hook and pull it in. Now with these little fish that we're fishing for here, if you're not getting nibbles within maybe 10 or 15 seconds, that's probably a good sign that no fish right there are going to bite. So I'm not getting any takers here, so I'm going to go ahead and reel it in and try another spot. Let's see. Okay, I got one. Took the bait. Little guy. So to reel in the fish, I'm going to keep my rod tip high, spin the crank, pull him right in. Now we want to be as gentle to the fish as possible. So you want to wet your hand so that you don't destroy the protective oils on the fish. And then you're going to, I gently grab him with one hand. This is something where a kid is going to need a bit of parental help, first few times at least. Now the hook's just gently in his lip, and sometimes you may need a small pair of needle nose pliers for this, but this one I'm able to just pull the hook out. Got the little fish right here, a little perch here in Shoal Creek, and I'm going to gently set him back in the water, kind of move him back and forth until he takes off and he's good to go.